I am ready to rumble because I've been following someone who's been talking about enlightenment and how hard it is. And today I saw this message. My panic attacks are increasing in frequency. This enlightenment business is no joke. The one thing that is getting me through is the fact that I've made it through each one. This is a very dangerous thought. I've made it through each one, so I must be getting somewhere. And yet their panic attacks are increasing in frequency. I said, your panic attacks have nothing to do with enlightenment. The reply back was, so you don't think that facing up to the non-existence of yourself in the world can't be panic-inducing? And someone else said, it has everything to do with bringing light to. When awareness or conscious light begins to land on parts which have been abandoned from the wholeness of our psyches, there is often tremendous fear and anxiety. I said, you're not facing up to the non-existence of yourself. You're thinking painful thoughts, and that's causing anxiety. Yourself can never not exist. There is nothing painful about your reality and truth. As long as you keep believing in the mind and the thoughts you're having, and that content of the mind is unhappy, you will be unhappy. If that content is scary, you will be scared. Upon actually realizing the truth of yourself, which is outside of the mind, your struggle with the mind and your suffering is over. To the person who said, you're bringing the light, I said, that's not true. If you actually brought conscious awareness and truth, the darkness and the pain will be dispelled. This will not feel bad nor scary. Otherwise, all you're doing is bringing more painful thoughts to the table. Who and what you are has nothing to do with thoughts about you. So I continued with my friend. I said, you've just got a new false identity, a new story in the mind. The fact that you're not what you thought you were, a separate person, doesn't mean you don't exist. It means you don't exist as what you thought you were. What you thought you were thoughts, bad, painful thoughts. And you still do think you are thoughts. It's just that instead of the old thoughts, now you've got these new ones, these new thoughts of my non-existence. How can you own non-existence? How can one who doesn't exist experience pain and anxiety? Do you see your own self-deception now? You're still dreaming the mind and its thoughts. It's just that you have different content. And yes, within the thoughts that you're dreaming is the story. I'm bringing light. I'm facing up to my non-existence or to my neuroses or to whatever I believe I am. It's still just a story in the mind. It's still the wrong identity. You've swapped your conventional existing person ego, that is whatever stories of the mind that used to be in the mind, though many of them are likely still present. You've swapped that or added onto that different content, the non-existing ego. You drank the Neo-Advaita Kool-Aid. You still are nowhere near the truth. Enlightenment does not happen in a disturbed mind. A disturbed mind cannot take you to enlightenment. A disturbed mind is what everybody else also still has. You're not special. You're not becoming enlightened by suffering more. Enlightenment is the absolute cessation of mind, even of a good feeling mind. These thoughts and experiences don't have anything to do with enlightenment. They have to do with the psychology of the content in your mind, pure and simple stories within thoughts. Psychologists would like you to have good content of mind and good stories so that you feel good. Whereas awakening, enlightenment, self-realization is about going beyond the mind, waking up from and to the mind. You're playing on the wrong level of field. Buddhas are happy, not miserable people experiencing anxiety. A reply came back. You say enlightenment is the absolute cessation of mind. Does that mean you experience no thought ever? I'm asking for you personally, not people in general. I said, what I mean is enlightenment only happens during the absolute cessation of mind, not the construction of it in any way, shape, or form, good or bad. So the complete cessation of mind is necessary, not just a momentary glimpse, and then you return to dreaming. And if it's complete and identification with the mind is destroyed, sometimes called destruction of the mind, but this doesn't mean that the capacity to use the mind or language is destroyed, only that identity with the mind or ego is destroyed. Then identity is corrected. If identity is corrected, you can't dream the mind anymore. To answer your question, I can experience no mind, and I can experience the mind. But when I do, I'm awake to the fact that it is the mind and not real, and not myself, and not others, and not the world. Once you have seen beyond the mind, you can begin the work to stay awake from dreaming the mind until identity is corrected. At first, it takes effort until your identity is corrected. Then it's effortless. If you're not ready, AKA, if you're still dreaming the mind and you don't know the difference and you don't know how not to, when you realize that what you thought you were is not actually real, then you will carry on dreaming and panicking in the mind, which is what's happening. This doesn't mean it has anything to do with enlightenment. It's just more unconscious dreaming. The character and the content of the story in the mind has changed. That's all. Except it's made it worse. You're now contracting harder on the mind and suffering, and it's uglier. The story is uglier, and you're feeling and experiencing that contraction on the story in the mind. And while believing it all to be real and true, you won't wake up from dreaming and suffering the mind. It's a vicious circle. This will escalate until you stop doing it, until you wake up. It doesn't have to get worse. You can wake up right now. Then the other person piped up. This witnessing agent that you refer to as the self is not far off and aloof from our humanity. It desires wholeness above all. And for this to happen, that light comes down, descends into the darkness, infusing it with love and wisdom, thereby transmuting it. When this happens, and it is deep and courageous work, the pain, anxiety, fear must be felt in the body, will be felt in the body for those who are willing to take the candle of awareness and get close to them. I said, this idea you have to suffer is a terrible one that just gets people into more trouble, as this person is now finding out. To feel pain in the body is to create pain in the body, and it is completely unnecessary. The poor body is innocent, and some of us are out there unknowingly abusing it because of people sharing ideas like this. It's completely and utterly false. Joy is one of the 7 factors of awakening. Like a garden which needs every factor for life support and healthy growth, if one factor is missing, it won't happen. This idea just leads to more suffering for eternity, or as long as you hold on to this idea to be true. It's up to you. They said, don't be so quick to dismiss another person's experience just because it's different from your own. I said, these are the 7 factors of awakening, and each one must be present. Not one of them is suffering or anxiety. You can Google this on Wikipedia, 7 factors of awakening. I said, I am not so quick to dismiss another's experience. I've been working with people since 2010, and I've helped every single one of them out of suffering and into recognitions and insights beyond the mind to peace and joy. And that all happened because of my father's own suffering and subsequent suicide, which led to my own suffering, yet, fortunately, a breakthrough. And this is why I do the work to help other people. I said, your stories of having to suffer have not been helping him. We must stop telling each other these collective unconscious suffering falsehoods. Yeah, it's still out there. This stuff is still out there. May said, I used to believe that kind of stuff, taking light into dark places, having to feel your feelings, blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. Quit depressing the body mind. Maybe I'm still rumbling.